Evening, everybody. Happy Friday and all that. Yeah, we're a little bit early again tonight, so Anthony Daly is lined up, and I'm really looking forward to speaking to him. So, we said 9, then we said 8, and now we're saying 7 because I think he wants to watch the Late Late Show or something. But here he is already. Fair play to him. I thought he might struggle with the old technology. Well, he's done well. I'm sure he's had help. Definitely had help. Monty, how are you? Just connecting up to him now, and there he is.
How's it going, Al?
How are you doing, Anto? You alright?
Yeah, nice and relaxed Friday evening feeling like.
Good, good. You're looking well.
I'm grand, I'm grand. I'm eating too much. I'm walking too much, but I'm eating too much, Al.
This lockdown is treating you well anyway, is it?
It's not too bad, sure. We're all a bit sick of it at this stage, I guess. But no, sure, look. Yeah, it's good to get to know how to use Instagram and stuff like that, you know what I mean? I just
tell,
about mastered Twitter, like.
tell the truth, did you get help?
Oh yeah, Miss Una Daly was giving me every assistance there to
Yeah.
what to press and what to. But yeah, it's not that complicated.
No, it's easy enough, and we feel like we're down with the young kids now when we're using this kind of stuff. You know yourself.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I do this one for you, kid.
To be fair, I have had your hounded, and I really appreciate you doing it, Dalo. And you know I'm a big fan of yours, and you're almost like Uncle Dalo. I nearly call you now, and so yeah, I've been on to you a lot, and obviously John Milan, and we're in a bit of a WhatsApp group with Hugh and Rob and all the lads, and all great lads, and we all have a bit of crack. So I do speak to you regularly enough. So I really appreciate you doing it, and thanks a million.
Not at all. We'll eventually shame Milan into doing it as well. Like,
Yeah, well, he's definitely trying to convert him to the whole Instagram crack. I think we're struggling there, to be honest with you. It's hard enough to get him on them Zoom calls for the quizzes.
he's just missing Sean O'Rourke so bad on Radio One. Like,
He loves Sean O'Rourke, doesn't he?
he loves. He's in an awful state that morning, wasn't he?
He must have spent a week and a half texting about Sean O'Rourke leaving.
He putting up voice messages about, listen to this, lads. This is the last time you'll ever hear this.
He's a good character, right? All
Brilliant.
right, we'll get on to him later on as well, Dale, but I want to talk all about you. And I suppose going back to, you grew up in a lovely part of the world in Clare Castle, so I'm sure lockdown hasn't been too hard for you. And you're sending us videos of swimming and all sorts, and you have a bit of colour on your head and everything. So you've been getting out and about doing plenty in a lovely part of the world, Clare Castle.
Well, yeah. I've moved from Clarecastle now. Like, I grew up there, and I spent all my single life there. But we moved back to West Clare
Okay.
in 1999 to open the pub here. So we built a house here. We live in West Clare now. So yeah, we even Clarecastle would be grand actually now. I wouldn't mind, both out here is idyllic altogether, to be honest with you.
Mm.
Except trying to get around the place, I suppose, with checkpoints and everything else.
Yeah, sure, there's checkpoints
But
everywhere.
look, yeah, we're all trying to do do our bit, I suppose, and keep within the rules. And there's lovely walks around the place now with it gone up to the 5K anyway from next week. So there'll be no bother getting the bit of exercise in. And if we just pull back from the table a small bit.
And Dale, but in terms of, I suppose, going right back to the start, growing up as a young fella in Clarecastle, and obviously we all know the success that you went on to have, which was amazing. But was it always hurling growing up as a kid? But I know you did play a bit of soccer, but was it always hurling as a young fella?
It was always hurling number one anyway, Alan. But geez, we played everything. It was. I grew up on Madden's Terrace where we had the O'Loughlin's, the Sparrow would have come out of a few houses down from me. Loads of big families, big row of 24 houses. You can imagine with a big behind us was the River Fergus, about half a kilometre behind us, and great fields for matches. And there was tennis courts that were meant to be lovely tennis courts put down by the council for tennis, which we took the nets off and made them into pitches for soccer and hurling games after school and all that sort of thing. Sure, we just had an idyllic childhood, really, with plenty rows now and plenty scrapes
Yeah.
and coming home bait up by one of the O'Loughlin's or one of the Healy's or one of the Murphys, or that was the way, sure. But you would get nothing at home for complaining either, so you just
Yeah.
had to get back out and get on with it again. And sure, we stayed out till it was dark, and we fought over not doing homework and everything. It was great. It was a great place to grow up. But then hurling in the village, very taken very seriously. Even though when I was growing up, we were going through a really poor patch at senior level, but slowly but surely the underage was worked on, and we started winning a bit of underage. We won an under 15 title, I think. I can't tell you what year now, but early 80s, mid 80s, and from there we kicked on and won back-to-back minors, 86 and 87. At the time, the seniors had just gotten going, and they won the senior titles 86 and 87, and we kind of kicked on to have a great period in the club right up to 205, but unfortunately, a bit like the Cork Hurlers, we haven't won one since 205.
Yeah.
But underage is going fairly okay again, so hopefully it'll bear fruit.
But just from your own point of view, Dalo, and it's often a cliche you hear with a lot of sports people, but I dreamed of growing up to score in the World Cup or to win a cup final or whatever. How far away was winning an All-Ireland with Clare as a young fella?
Miles and miles, Carl, like, geez, sure, I mean, like, but still, I was reared on the diet of that great Clare team in the 70s who won back-to-back leagues, 77, 78, and the agonising defeat to Cork in 78 Munster final by 2 points when Clare were the second best team in the country. I wouldn't, maybe the Wexford lads would argue otherwise, but there was no back doors, and they were a great team and they were my heroes. It was just at that age, 8, 9, 10, impressionable, and we had Johnny Callanan from our own village. They had a pub in the village, so just to even go to see the seniors training at the club and see Johnny arrive, and he used to work in Limerick that time, it was kind of an inspiration that one of us could make it. Like, I mean, those Munster finals, there was 50,000 and 60,000 people at them in Thurles. Yeah. So, so look, there was a hint of success, but still, Clare hadn't won Munster since 32 and hadn't won an All-Ireland since 14. So, yeah, to say that you'd achieve it. But you don't tell me we didn't go out into the garden and pretend we were Johnny Callanan or Jimmy Barry Murphy or whoever and scored a winning point or winning goal to win the All-Ireland. So, of course we did. And we did the commentary from Micheál O'Hare and Micheál Murray-Hurtig.
And was it always, Dalo, I suppose, as you were getting older then, I know you did say you played the soccer and you were into all the sports. At what point was the hurling becoming really serious for you? Was it throughout your underage, or was it once you hit minor level? Yeah,
I suppose it was always very serious, but I definitely was too slow. I just was off the pace, playing the backs. I was nearly a target for some teams, but just kind of stretched. And I suppose before its time, a few of my local trainers gave a bit of advice on maybe doing squatting and stuff like that. And
did you realize that yourself? You felt you were too slow, or
I knew it was. You didn't realize when fellas were running away from you and they were going 1 yard, 2 yards, 3 yards. So you realize. And then I went into St. Flannan's, be famous nursery, and I couldn't make the under 15 team like when I was the first year. Yeah, and even was a poor corner forward on the under 16.5 team when I was third year or fourth year, and we were beaten in a Munster final and that to call it the Dean Ryan Cup, be the second biggest one in Munster colleges. But by the time we got to fifth year, I'd kind of stretched. And as I said, a couple of my Mick Slattery and Bernie Ryan, they were underage mentors of ours, and maybe like Sir Pascal Russell, they would have showed me, how to do squatting before its time, and press-ups, and a few dumbbells were secured, and slowly but surely, I was never quick, but I got enough to survive, I suppose. And
it's often, Dalo, and I know yourself, obviously, when we get on to the management stuff, but there's such an emphasis nowadays on the strength and conditioning. It's almost as if people think that kind of stuff never went on, say, when you played and all, and you're saying there about squats and all the fitness side of that was going on back then even.
Yeah, I remember a neighbour of ours who's playing goal for us in the club, Tommy Hagerty, was working in some manufacturing crowd. They did some sort of metal work in Shannon in the industrial estate, and he made 2 dumbbells for me. They were about as related to the ones you see in the gym, but they were perfectly weighted, and every night before going into bed, like, it was 50 curls and 50 over the heads. And playing a bit of junior soccer, I noticed taking throw-ins. I could throw it about 10 yards further after.
You're like Big Mick throwing the ball, yeah. You're like Big Mick throwing it.
That was nearly a tactic with Turnpike Rovers for a finish. I take the throw-ins. Who was the Irish lad? Was it the lad Rory Delap, was it?
Delap, yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah. I was nearly a weapon for that.
That's really interesting though, Dale, because obviously we had the Goot John, he commented there as well a couple of weeks ago. We had Dean Rock, so a lot of the lads at underage level would have always been, you would have known that their talent when they were young and progressing through and always doing well. I never realised now, and it's interesting you say that you couldn't even make the under-15 team, and you were finding it maybe hard to go on. What you achieved is just incredible, really.
Yeah, in some ways it's a help to Alan as well. I mean, you look at Henry Shefflin, I suppose maybe the greatest of all time. Arguably, he would have struggled really to make a Kilkenny minor team. Say me, the Clare minors, my very last year, I snuck in corner back on the back of a good St. Flannan's team. So I think it gives you that bit of extra hunger, Now
Yeah.
some lads, I would have played with James O'Connor, will say it would have been the boy wonder at under 14, 15, 16, and still went on to be maybe Clare's greatest forward.
Yeah.
So it can be done. That would be always a message I would give to young players if you were ever asked to present medals. We did a lot of that back in the day. I suppose you'd always say if you're the best now, you can still be the best. And if you're not, you still have time if you're dedicated.
Yeah, but sometimes as well, it kind of, I suppose, young lads that get knockbacks, it builds up that kind of resilience amongst them, which can be a really good thing as well.
Yeah, for sure, Alan. I think, a bit of success is fine. A few hard knocks when you're younger is no harm either, I tell you. Just build it, like you'll either give it up or you'll come back stronger, and you'll tear into it and be determined. You don't want to feel that pain again. And
Yeah.
that was a trend that followed us into our senior days as well. We came up in the
Do
school
you
of hard
think
knocks.
Do you think they'll say because I would have grown up something similar with the soccer and tough dressing rooms, sink or swim, you either survive, get on with it, or else you're gone. And obviously it's something similar to what you were saying there, a few knockbacks, never done anyone any harm. Do you think nowadays it's a bit too soft for some of the young lads maybe?
Look, I'd say overall, Al, we're on the right track, with health and safety and that kind of protocols and all that, and even down to Garda Vetman and all that. I think that's the best way, really. We can't go backwards like that, But there is elements that the uncontrolled stuff, like after school, no referee, and you bring that on to Brian Cody and even Gerlach Nan, there wasn't much whistle being blown either when we were trying to prepare for big games. But there maybe is a little bit too much, but you do notice as well that the GA are very much, and I presume the soccer as well, trying to discourage, the lunatic parents that under 10 and under 12 games screaming at young lads and screaming at referees. I mean, that sort of thing has no place really. So we're probably in a better time at the same time.
On 100%, yeah. But I do think, who was I chatting to this about last week? But I do think there's a balance to be met still, that you can't go from one extreme to the other. And I just look at it nowadays, and it's not just a sports thing. I think it's a society thing as well. You probably wouldn't get away nowadays with maybe what you did back then or stuff like that. But I still think there's room for the odd kick up the arse every now and again with fellas.
Yeah, as we call it, the mollycoddling, there's whatever that word means. I tell you, it's very hard to describe. But the mollycoddling, there's a bit too much of it goes on, I suppose, and I suppose it comes from home maybe more than And as I said, conditions are just different now. We live in that. But geez, it's horrible using a sanitized world in what we're going through at the moment, isn't it? But that's the reality. Compared to our youth, there's no doubt about that. It was wild and mad and carefree, but it was brilliant as well.
Yeah. Okay, so Dalo, you mentioned his name there a couple of minutes ago, Gerlach Nan, and obviously went on to have great success with him. Your first introduction to him and going into, I suppose, the senior team, was he aware of the talent coming through, or how hard was it when you first went in amongst the senior lads and meeting Gerlach Nan?
Well, he wouldn't have been there when I started, Alan. He'd been just finished playing, to be honest with you. I started in '89 with Sean Heher, who was part of that famous 70s team with Gerlach Nan. They were both part of that same half-back line. They were both the two wing-backs. Ironically, that's where I wound up playing. But so he wasn't even there. And really, it took Glenn Gaynor to come from Tipperary, who was a Tipperary star of the 60s into the early 70s, to come and take over as manager to really lift the standards. But Ger had been steadily working away. He was a teacher down in Shannon and had he'd won a couple of Failing the Gales, which would be the All-Ireland under-14 with Wolf Tones, Shannon. And he was building up, and he eventually took over a great Clare under-21 team that lost the Munster final narrowly in '92. And I was made the senior captain in '92, as a 22-year-old. So yeah, it was inevitable, I suppose, that when Len went, Ger was going to be the guy to take over. But to say that he brought it to another level is an understatement. Len had brought it to another level initially, but yourself, your own guy, I suppose, coming in really knew the pitfalls and the weaknesses that we had as Clare people. I suppose it's an undercurrent of no belief or, you know, lack of belief inside us, and he realised that, and I think he set about straight away kind of physically breaking us over that winter of 94, 95. I mean, the training was shocking, like.
Really, but before that, Dale, when you were made captain, because that's a hell of an honour for anyone really, but at 22, did you think that was on the cards, or that was coming, or did that come as a surprise to you at the time?
To tell you the truth, Al, now I won't be bullshitting about it. It was a freak, really. We were playing Waterford in the championship, and Tommy Guilfoyle was the captain. Tommy was a great player at that time, great full forward, one of the best in Ireland. And Tommy, between the draw and the replay, Tommy got a fit of cut in his lawn or something, and he was very lucky not to lose his fingers. He went kind of checking for why the lawnmower had stopped.
Really, yeah.
His fingers, yeah, but they were okay. Tommy came back and hurled with us right up to the end of 94, but Tommy was out for the replay, so there was no real vice captain in place. And out of the blue, Len just called me aside, I think Len Gaynor, and said, "Look, I'd want to make a captain for the weekend." And she was kind of blown away, to be honest. Like, you know, although nobody had any great expectations for either ourselves or Waterford, but it was still the Munster Championship, you know, still the diet and stuff we'd grown up on, and it was a great honour for the family, I would say, number one, because both my uncles had captained Clare back in the 40s, and great honour for the club as well then, I suppose, you know, to have the Clare captain. So.
Oh, unbelievable, yeah. And then obviously, as you were mentioning there, once Ger took over, he takes it to another level. You mentioned the training was real tough. And was there an expectation then, Dalo, that did you feel building up to 95 that you were getting close, or once Ger took over, there was targets in place then that's what you were aiming towards?
Yeah, just to give you a quick bit of background, Carl, like we hadn't won it. Clare hadn't won a match from 87 to 93, you know, in Munster.
Wow.
No one literally won a game. That was the breakup of a kind of a good team, 86, 87, and then went through a desperate period of beatings, hammerings and everything. And all of a sudden then in 93, with Gaynor's good work, we came out and we beat Limerick in Ennis, which was a shock. And then we caused the shock of shocks by beating Cork, who were the favourites for the All-Ireland, in the Munster semi-final now in bad conditions in Limerick. But then, I suppose, the dying kick of the Babs Keaton Tipperary team with Nicky and all them, they gave us the beating of all beatings in the Munster final, which set us right back again. And again, no back door, gone. But then the draw was made for 94 and we drew Tipperary, and we, of course, with all the dander up, and Tip had a few injuries. Len was still the manager, but Ger at this stage had gone in working with him as the coach. And it was Len's last year, we all knew that. And we came out and beat Tip, which was unbelievable for us. Like, and I think even Babs resigned as Tip manager that evening. But then we came out and choked again in the Munster final against Limerick, who beat us 11 points. So again, we're back to square one. But then Ger took over as manager, and straight away we got results. We topped Division 1 of the league. It got to the league final, but as sure as night follows day, we flopped again in the league final.
Okay.
And he came out with a mad statement afterwards that we were going to win the Munster Championship. Now, bearing in mind, we hadn't won it since 32, and this was 95. Like, I remember the lads in the car coming home, like, the Sparrow says to me, "Did you, what you make of what your man said?" Like, I said, "He's raving." I said, like, you know, so we still didn't really believe, but somehow we were lucky. We got over Cork, and we were back in the Munster final, and by God, it was our third in a row, and were we determined.
But because you were, Dalo, because you were getting beatings like that and things weren't going as well, and then you were reaching the last hurdle and all was falling, we beginning to build up a label of chokers or bottlers or whatever kind of label you want to put on it.
Oh, sure. Big time, Alan. Like, you know, I mean, people used to say, when are Clare going to stop ruining the Munster final, the great day that it is? Like, we were just serious. I mean,
but that brings a pressure on itself as well.
Oh yeah, and I'd say that 95 final, because Limerick and Offaly had been such a, you know, Limerick were so unlucky against Offaly in the 94 All-Ireland final. Everyone was just teeing that up as a rematch for that year. And like, I'd say Limerick outnumbered us about 3-1 support-wise. And, you know, Limerick would have massive support, but Clare's support had just nearly given up the ghost at this stage, Alan. Like, you know, they couldn't take it anymore. I didn't blame a lot of them, to be honest with you. The humiliation of walking out of Limerick and Thurles and places, hammered again.
That's one thing.
That by 20 if you're Clare.
And that's one thing, Dalo, that obviously with the GA community, because as you said, you lose the match, you're back in work Monday, you're walking around the town, you're meeting everyone. Like, at what point does that become, you don't even want to see people?
Oh, sure, you probably weren't back at work anyway, Al. You were probably hiding in some saloon somewhere. I remember after the 93 final, I think I had a good few holidays in the bank. I was working that time, and myself and Fergie Toohey and Stephen Sheedy, who had been playing, and another buddy of ours, Donald Vaughan, we hit off back to Milltown Malbay to the Willie Clancy Trad Music Festival for the week. I think we made our way back tennis around the Thursday, and I'll tell you, you needed it after we'd beaten 18 points.
Yeah.
And like fellas telling us back there to burn our hurleys and the rest, you know. So
yeah,
it was hard. It's a hard place to be, because like I often think of it, you know, the soccer players that make it really big and maybe lose something massive like a cup final or the league on the last day. You can go off to the mansion and lock the gates and still get the wages. Like, you still have to face up to your club mates Thursday, Friday night, and face in. And
that's what I'm saying. Like, and like there was it was so long since he had won it. Then you're getting to the finals and losing, and like it's almost like the Mayo thing in the last 3 or 4 or 5 years. Like, how you keep coming back, like it's just unbelievable.
Yeah, I suppose the thing with Mayo is a little bit different, maybe. Well, it is similar as well. But they had been winning Connacht, I suppose. For us, the Munster final was the big bogey. Like, Clare had great teams. In 55, which I obviously can't go back to, we beat Tipperary and Cork and lost to this young Limerick team that had an average age of 20, I think, you know. Like, just heartbreak after heartbreak into the 70s, the 80s, you know. And it was the Munster final. And once we won that Munster final, like, the All-Ireland held no fear for us, because, you know, we were liberated. We were the team that had bridged the gap, the 63-year gap. So, like, to be honest with you, the rest of 95 kind of flowed beautifully, to be honest, which is the mad thing. I suppose Mayo just have to win Sam for that to come true for them. And I think Mayo could probably maybe go on and win a few more Sams then. Like, yeah.
But before that, Dalo, and you mentioned about the conversation where Ger had said that, and you're going home with Sparrow, and he's saying your man's nuts, like, with this stuff. And then, as you said, you're progressing, you win the Munster, you're going on then, as you said, you almost feel liberated. But before you go into the final, just because it was so long since they won, I think it was 81 years or something, 1914. Like, what was the pressure like just in the town itself, or building up to that, the hype building up to that? Are we going in kind of trying to just dampen it and play down all the hype, really?
No, and he was a sports psychologist before I ever heard of one, Ellen. You know, he urged us all to take it in, to see all the colour. Like, Clarecastle was gone bananas. There was 6 of us. I'm getting carried away now. There was 6 of us on the panel, and 3 playing and 3 subs, and like, Jesus, the colour in the village, like, everyone, you'd nearly be ashamed to not have bunting out of your house and flags and banners, and so it was mad. But he encouraged us to take it all in, and that we were completely in bonus territory. Even if we lost, there'd be 30,000 people waiting for us at the homecoming, and wasn't it a fantastic way to approach it? And such a difference then from 97. You know, 2 years later, if we lost it, by Jesus, coming home would have been a different ball game, you know. So,
all right, well, before you jump to 97, and you win it, obviously, it's probably, is it the most memorable day in your career, Dalo, 95, the first one, or are the two of them the same, or kind of, can you put a feeling on it at all?
I think every one of us would put the Munster ahead of it, Alan.
Really, yeah?
You know, yeah, absolutely, because, like, it's, as I said, like, we'd no knowledge of losing All-Ireland finals. You know, we didn't know. All we knew about going up was supporting Galway in All-Ireland finals. You know, buying a Galway hat when we were a young fella, like, you know, because Clare didn't get to All-Ireland finals or semi-finals. So, yeah, I mean, the Munster final was the day of we liberated Clare hurling. You know, that was the day the tears were shed, and that was the day, the emotion and the homecoming that night. Like, the people at Clare hadn't even stages or the backs of lorries ready for us coming home. I was put up in the bus stop in Clarecastle. Up in the bus stop, like, that's the only thing they could think of, to put me up on high so the crowd could see us, you know.
Okay.
So that was the day of days for us, yeah. But then the All-Ireland, obviously, we knew the magnitude of it all, and but we took it in brilliantly. I mean, cool as a breeze, really, going up to it. I mean, a few lads it did get to, all right, there's no doubt about that, but I didn't feel any great pressure, to be honest with you. I felt if we never hit a ball again, we were going to be kind of going down as the best Clare team since 32, you know what I mean? So,
but that's the thing, Dale. I know you now, and as I said, a great fella. Everyone likes you, but you're very passionate, and you love, obviously, where you're from and the hurling. You love all that, and we watch you the Sunday game now. It's the same. You just love the game of hurling. But you, the player, or you, the captain, building up to that, what were you like as a captain to your teammates, or as a player yourself, in terms of how you coped with the pressure of it all, or how did you embrace it?
Yeah, very much along the same team, Alan. I decided I was going to enjoy it, that this might never happen again. Who knew that Clare were going to win a couple of more Munsters afterwards and that kind of thing, and we'd get a few shots at it. But so I decided, I was definitely going to enjoy it, and I think the family really enjoyed it, and our neighbours enjoyed it, and I brought that to training. I would have felt as well, that sense of, lads, we're playing Offaly as well. Like, and Offaly, don't get me wrong, Offaly were the best team in the country, Alan. But they still weren't Tip, Cork or Kilkenny, if you know. They were like ourselves, except they'd achieved, as I said in the speech, they were our inspiration. Like, if Offaly can do it, why can't we do it? If Offaly can take on Kilkenny and Wexford and beat them, why can't we step out of the shadows of Cork and Tip and even Limerick at that stage and go ahead? So, but that was an advantage to us as well. Offaly had been superb against Kilkenny in that Leinster final, and they were raging hot favourites. And we had the beauty of the Galway game in the semi-final, which was a really tough battle. Galway were very, very good around then as well, So I think that match really got us back on track for the final, and that really stood to us. Now, the final was, it ebbed and flowed. You could say we got lucky a bit,
Yeah. But you need a bit of luck as well.
Of course you need a bit of luck. I mean, I took a late free, Alan, trying my best to get a point from way back, 100 yards back, and it dipped and hit the crossbar, and there's Eamon Taff, who the Clare management were trying to take off at the time, but because of the technology, there was nothing in the referee's ear. He'd have to spot the linesman with his flag up. Eamon didn't get to be taken off before the free was hit, and Eamon had the best pair of hands on the team, I swear, and the ball bounced down to Eamon and he stuck it, and the next thing he was being called ashore. Like, you don't have a bit of luck. Like, I mean, you have to. Luck won't get you over the line if you're not competitive, but if it's very close, the bit of luck makes all the difference, I think.
Oh, absolutely, and you see that in all sports. You hear all of them speaking about the bit of luck. So the celebrations then, Dalo, like, was it just mayhem? And I know you enjoy a bit of crack, like us all. Anything, like, does the odd day you wake up and think, oh, remember that, it was just amazing?
No, I can't remember any of it, hardly, Kai. No, be honest with you now.
You're still living off the jar.
I will, sure, yeah, kind of. But I made a point of, not having too many pints on the Monday. The Sunday night, great, like, and we actually went out of the hotel and went off to some nightclub, and we great crack.
What was Dalo, sorry, what was Loughnane like for that stuff? Would he just, once the football was done or the hurling was done, away you go?
Yeah, he didn't know much about football, Alan, now, with due respect.
But I mean, once the match was over.
When Man United were flying at one stage, and I was no United fan now, but he got a bit of raving about how well United were playing one time in a team talk to us, and I said, "Will you go away like this?" In my own mind now, you wouldn't say it out to him, obviously. Like, what are you on about soccer for? Like, but no, he was superb that way. When it was over, cut loose, and even that time with the knockout championships, when you won, you probably had 4 weeks to the next round, like, and he would let us go off the rails literally for Monday and Tuesday, like, but then he'd absolutely murder us then on the Thursday night, or he'd let Mike Mack murder us in front of half the county as well. Like, a lot of Ger's sessions used to be locked down, nobody would see his tactics or anything like that. And but the first session back after a championship victory, he'd let the whole county in to have a look at us suffering and getting sick and everything like that, But Monday, he just wanted us to enjoy ourselves. But I actually remember saying to myself Monday morning, while I was going to have a few beers, I definitely wanted to take it on. And of course, look at you, knew you had to go speeching as well. Of
course,
back to Castle and Ennis and Newmarket and Fergus and Shannon Airport, and you'd have to make speeches everywhere you went, and you couldn't be making a show of me mother either, like, So, we took it handy enough, actually. I think when the whole thing was over, club mate of mine, Kenny Morrissey, and both our partners, we headed off to a quiet hotel, maybe 3 or 4 miles outside the town, and had a few pints and just relaxed a bit. I think for Tuesday was a great day then, because we kind of, there was no mobiles really, but we got word to all the boys where we'd be, and we got about 4 hours to ourselves before word got around the county where we were. You know, and we were actually in a small pub in Clarecastle in Evans, and I suppose people sussed as well with me being from Clarecastle. But yeah, Mrs. Evan was alive, and she was like a godmother to all the Clarecastle lads, and she kind of became like a godmother to the Clare lads as well for a few years after, you know. But she got the name of being the Monday Clubhouse, and sure, it was just fantastic, like, you know. But that Tuesday, I think we'll all the lads will remember that as a magic special day where we were kind of, okay, there was a nice few locals there, but we were still kind of on our own, and we got to chat about things. And because amazingly, once the final whistle went in Croke Park, you got very little chance to have chats with your teammates. You know, you were just swamped with people and that, you know. And bit of crack on the bus, all right. And we flew down to Shannon actually, which was unusual, but having Shannon Airport on your doorstep was a great advantage that time. And the flight down was fantastic. That's one of my great memories of it. The pilot was a Clare lad now, his name escapes me, but he, just for the crack, he flew up around the Burn and over the Cliffs of Moher, and like, I remember we were flying back down towards Shannon, and like he was coming into land at this stage. I mean, Clare's not that big, but we were coming in over Kilnamona, and Fergal Hegarty was from Kilnamona, they were a small junior club at the time. Now they've joined up with their fellow parishioners in Ina, and they're a massive club. But we were able to pick out Hago's house, we reckoned, from the plane. Like, so some of those moments will live with you. It's great fun. But once you got off the plane, sure, you've been pulled and dragged everywhere, like, after that.
And then, Dalo, so you move on obviously to the 97 one, and you mentioned how 95 was obviously, you felt liberated, it was the monkey off your back, away you go, and you almost like you were in bonus territory. But you mentioned there the 97 one, there was real pressure on you then going into the 97 one.
Yeah, there's real beauty in talking to a soccer head like yourself from Sligo, Carl. You've conveniently skipped the pain of 96, losing to Limerick. Fair play to you.
I don't want to keep you all night, even though I'd love to keep you all night.
No, but yeah, we were out and gone one round in 96, so he just drove us demented again for the winter that good teams win one, but great teams win two, you know.
But was he very driven like that, yeah? Like once 95 won, was it straight back to try and win another one?
Well, no, I mean, sure, we wound up in Thailand in January 96, like on holidays and all, you know, so I was great like that. He'd let you cut loose. We did Boston and New York with the cup as well, and so that was magic. Like, that was half the reason we were kind of nearly caught in 96. Now, no disrespect to Limerick, they won fair and square, but yeah, but Jesus, he was like a demented lunatic again, straight from that match. We'd go back to our clubs, obviously, in 96, but once you were called back in September of 96 to start training for 97, it was all bets off. No holidays, no weekends away, no nothing. And again, no pints, just back to being skin and bone and malnourished and overtrained and killed. But Jesus, to beat the big three, you know, the traditional three, to beat Cork, to beat Tip, to beat Kilkenny in the semi, and to get Tip again in the final. Now, that brought its own pressure if they had come back and beaten us. But to win it like that was just, for a Clare hurling person, it was dream come true stuff. Like, you know, you couldn't write away. If anyone said 95 was a fluke, this had proven, but without any doubt, that there was no fluke whatsoever involved. Like.
And from the experiences then, Dale, of the way you approached it from 95, did you carry the same approach into 97 and just want to embrace it, or were you feeling the pressure as well?
Absolutely shitting myself, Carl. When we beat the GA fans will know this, when we beat Tip down in Cork in the Munster final, Clare had never beaten Tip in a Munster final either. I went up and got the cup and I said, we're no longer the whipping boys of Munster, you know, this speech, and that went around the place, and all of a sudden there was Tipperary ahead of you again 2 months later in the All-Ireland final, and everyone's saying, we'll give you whipping boys, and of course the posters and the banners up around Nina and Thurles and places was the back door, and we'd be whipped with the back door and all this, and Jesus, the pressure going into that final, like, and like Johnny Lahey got a ball right at the deck to win that match, and like, we've had our ups and downs with having Davy Fitz. We'd be good now in general, but Jesus, that save he made that day, I'll never be as thankful for a man for making a save, because if that hit the back of the net, I'd have been making a run for the dressing rooms anyway before the Tip fans got on the field, I tell you. all the good of 95 would nearly been gone down the drain, you know.
Okay, okay. How much, Dalo, on the speeches do you actually think about them prior to the match? Be honest now. Or is it just as soon as the game is over, then it's something? Or do you prepare them?
Well, if I told you the truth now, I'd be after telling 25 years of lies. So I'm sticking with the theory. Look, you'll be a complete liar, Alan, if you didn't think about
Yeah.
stuff like the traditional music. Like, I mean, that had been said to me on the pitch, and I couldn't wait to get that off my chest, that we're better than at just music. Like, we love music, but we're good at other things as well. So yeah, you'd have stuff in your head, but I never believed in writing down anything and that kind of thing. Let it go. I mean, I used to get nervous, Alan, before dinner dances, where I'd have to go up after the parish priest and the county board chairman in front of 300 and make a speech.
Would you?
But
Yeah.
after winning the All Ireland, like, sure, who
Do what
gave
you
a
want.
shite what you said, like, just go up and get it there. Anyone would have done. It was easy. It was easy, as I often said. Bad Black Sheep would have done the Clare people, like. They were in seventh heaven, so the speeches that flow out here, I never found that as a problem anyway.
Yeah. Okay, Dalo, I know, as I said, I don't want to keep you all night, even though I would gladly keep you all night. It'd be better if we had a pint now, but you move
We
on
get
then.
one of those. We get one of those, Con.
We will, but the Gooch said there you're missing the boars. We're all missing the boars, I think, at the
We're
moment.
all
But
missing the boars.
we'll get there. We'll get there. When it all came to an end, I know there was the chance you often spoke to me before about the 3 in a row thing, and that kind of irks you a little, or not the 3 in a row, but the captain to win it 3 times, which would have really kind of, I know you're up here, but that would have put you up here. And
Yeah, well, that's what
irks
I
you a
was
little bit.
aware. Yeah, I was aware. I was aware that only one man, the great Christy Ring, had lifted Liam McCarthy 3 times. Like, now comparing me to Christy Ring would be a bit like comparing yourself to Ronaldo. Like, sorry, no, but it could have happened. Like,
Who knows, Dalo? I just should
for
have done
both
more.
of us, Carl, it could have happened. Like, but
I'd
no, it
have,
wasn't
right?
to be. It
I'd
wasn't to
have
be.
Anthony Daly and Alan Cawley over Ronaldo and Christy Ring any day.
Yeah, well, I'm not so sure how the two of them would have got on anyway. We'd be okay.
We'd
We'd
be
be
grand.
okay. But no, sure, it looked like it was odds on to happen maybe after we won the Munster again in '98. But unfortunately, well, probably Offaly should have beaten us the first day in the semi-final, and we got a lucky enough draw. But then we were 3 points ahead with 68 minutes played, and poor old Jimmy Cooney blew the whistle for some
Yeah.
reason and got the timing wrong. And I suppose we were forced into a third match, which Offaly won fair and square. And I suppose fatigue was catching up with us at that stage. They were probably that bit fresher, but they won it fair and square. Joe Dooley had the game of a savage career now. Joe Dooley is one of my favourite players of all time, but he just hit the day of days that day, and they beat us and they won the final easily enough against Kilkenny, So what might have been, but geez, Alan, if you told me when I was starting off at Clare or when Gerald Nairn was taking over that we'd have won what we won, I'd have been taking the hand off you, as I said, like many's the time. Yeah, at the time, very disappointed, but I often think even '99 we could have won it. Cork beat us in the Munster final. We made our way back into the semi-final, and we were a point down against Kilkenny, I think, with 5 minutes to go, and really had him on the rack. And DJ, the Dodger, came up with a fantastic goal, and I suppose really that ended our chances. We came close again. The boys, when I was finished in '02, they got to the final again, but I suppose our team really broke up after '99, you could say. And Gerard did one more year in 2000, but Tip knocked us out in Munster, and that was kind of the breakup of that team as we knew it, especially the fellas who were maybe getting a little bit older like me.
On that, Dalo, as well, you're coming near the end, but you mentioned a couple of players there, obviously Joe Dooley, DJ Carey. I suppose your era and the top quality players you would have always played against. Another thing we mentioned, or I remember chatting to you about a few months ago, just about the lads that are playing nowadays. And the standard now compares to maybe then. I know it's hard to compare eras and stuff, but just in terms of what some of the individuals are capable of doing now, it's just, you think it's kind of gone up another few levels, like?
Well, I just think strategies have changed, and tactics has become so much bigger, and just even the amount of matches that have been on lately with the no live games, so they're showing the reruns, and sometimes you're watching even clear matches and there's balls that you pulled on, you didn't lift it into your hand, you just let fly, and it went 25 yards to an Offaly fella or a Galway fella or, you know, whoever. You said, Jesus, why didn't I pick up that ball? But that was the culture, was move the ball quickly. And I think we were way more skillful than the modern player with ground hurling and things like that, you know. And even in the air, lads were superb. I mean, geez, I remember watching the show at our semi-final against Galway in '95, and Galway, the midfielder, Michael Coleman. And like his battle, he was a brilliant player, you know, a veteran of the Galway teams of the 80s. And his battle with Ollie Baker in the air, of the two of them letting fly on high balls and connecting and driving them on 40 yards. And you never see that now because players are playing with an extra half-back or an extra midfielder. And there's no advantage on a half-back pulling on the ball anymore. You know, that day is gone, unfortunately, because really it's only for half-forwards if you get a chance to move the ball in quickly into an inside guy is where ground hurling. So I think we were probably every bit as skillful, you know, but circumstances were different and everything is measured better now, and things like GPS and all that and video analysis and
it's the same. I'm watching the old soccer matches and all, and then you're looking at games from nowadays, and you don't want to be disrespectful to people then, but I think it's just sport in general. It just evolves and moves on, Dalo, and all, as you said there, the different things now, tracking fitness levels and all sorts, the speed of the game, the pitches to play on now as well.
Yeah, and like even we spoke about the football earlier, and just I think they showed that famous Seamus Derby final to stop Kerry from doing the 5 in a row. Yeah. And you know, you remember the save that the Offaly keeper Martin Furlong made, and you remember the famous goal, but you don't remember too much if you're not from Offaly or Kerry. And they showed it there on one of the Sundays, and geez, it was a brilliant game of football to watch as well. Like, and that was 1982, so you know, like there was brilliant matches as well back then. It's just, I suppose, things have evolved, as you said. That's the way I put it. And obviously, going into coaching myself, you had to evolve as a coach as well. You couldn't just be the Gerald Man way. You had to try and bring it forward and embrace all that technology. Like, you go back to our time, I suppose maybe 1/3 of our team went on to third level. Whereas now, sure, you have nearly, if there's the odd one not gone on to third level. You know, so they're seeing that from all the other counties, and the expertise levels of colleges is incredible. Like, you know, I haven't been involved a bit with freshers teams, with LIT and with UL. I mean, the technology levels at that level now, it's just frightening. Like, it's like inter-county stuff.
Okay. On that as well, Dale, so you finish up, and obviously we're mentioning here about the game evolving and stuff. Was management always a plan for you, or were you one of these players when you were playing? Obviously, you were the captain, so you would have been kind of, there was lots of leadership from you in that regard, but was the management always on the radar?
You know, like, kind of, one of my favourite songs, Alan, would be The Boys of Born Shrada, great Kerry anthem, and there's a line in it where the line is, life held no threat or plan. And I kind of live it that way, like, you know. You know, and look, hurling is a massive part of that for me. And I was training maybe the Clarecastle under 12 footballers when I was an under 16, you know. And like, when we won the All-Ireland, myself and the Sparrow and a mate of ours, Park Russell, would have managed the Clarecastle Miners to win the Clare County Minor A Championship, you know, which was unheard of. Like, imagine asking a county player to do that now, but we lived for it, you know. So yeah, it was just like, look, I played the county final for Clarecastle, and I think on the Tuesday night week I was made Clare manager.
Okay.
Actually, we won the county final and we had to play Patrickswell in the Munster club, and I had already been announced as the Clare manager. And you can imagine a few of the well boys like Gary Kirby and Kieran Carey and them having a few choice words for me during that, and they beat us as well. Like, that was my last match playing for the club, like, you know. But that was fair weird, like, being the Clare manager and hurling for your club in the Munster club, you know. So yeah, it just came about. I probably hadn't enough experience in hindsight, Alan, but I wouldn't swap it either. We came very close in 2 semi-finals, you know, and we were beaten by the champions Cork in 05 and Kilkenny in 06, the eventual champions on both occasions, narrowly enough both times. So I had no regrets, and I knew that Brian Lohan and Shawnee and Davy and, you know, Colin Lynch and these guys were coming near the end, and, you know, they wanted me to have a cut as well, and I was delighted I did. It was very disappointing, especially the 05 one, because we led Cork by 6 points with 14 minutes to go, you know. And
funny, because I was only reading that today, in that semi-final against Cork, that's probably the one that annoys you the most, because you were up by 6 against Cork, which was massive really, and then to lose by a point, I think, in the end.
Yeah, and the score was 16 points to 15, Alan, and if you told me that morning we'd have held that Cork team with the O'Connor twins and Brian Corcoran and all the brilliant players they had. Like, if we'd have held them to 16 points, I just said we'd definitely been winning. But we just had some awful wides on the day, and then we got a bit of cabin fever coming down the stretch. There's no doubt about it. The great line about going looking for the finish line.
Yeah.
I think that gripped, even though I was on the sideline as well. I wouldn't have been my proudest day on the line, I have to say.
Okay.
If I had my time over, we'd have probably done things a bit different. Might maybe dropping a player deep and protecting the lead. But, in a hurling game, 6 points can become 3 points very, very quickly. Even though they didn't get a goal, they got 3 rapid points, and all of a sudden, Cork, the team going for back-to-back All-Irelands, were only 3 points behind you, and there was 11 or 12 minutes to go, which was nothing. And, we just couldn't get a grip on their half-back line the same day. We couldn't win a puck out. And, it was an agonising dressing room to be in, to be honest with you.
You mentioned there, Dale, about maybe you didn't have the experience when you first took over Clare. Was there much then, would you have done much kind of in speaking to Gerald Nan or stuff when you took over, or would he have been offering up kind of advice and stuff, or was there anything like that?
Yeah, he offered up plenty of criticism anyway.
Yeah.
In the newspaper anyway. And the Sunday game as well. I hope he's on Instagram and is watching this now, Gerard. I tell you, that still rankles. But look, we'd be tight enough, myself and him. I'll never forget what he did for me. So, yeah, he look at Alan when the job was sort of on the table, and I was young and inexperienced. He'd be the first man I rang. But I suppose his advice was to go in. There might be a year in the boys, and I might be the man to get one last kick out of them in 04. And 04 didn't turn out too good for us at all. We got hockeyed by Waterford and Munster, and we drew with Kilkenny, but they beat us in the replay. But after that, he became nearly my biggest critic, to be honest with you. So, but maybe that was Ger's kind of, as I said, sports psychology. I'd say it was before his time. That was his maybe of kind of trying to drive me on to be more demented like him and to do more and more, and maybe even irk some of the senior players to do it for me, because he was criticising me fairly heavily. But it didn't sit too bad with me either. Jeez, stuff like that, you know what I mean? You get it. I often say, if you enlist, you must drill, Alan, and the criticism comes. If you take on a job like that, you're going to get a bit of slack if you're not winning All-Irelands.
But because it was coming from him, did it hurt you anymore, or did that not bother you? Because, as you say, it comes with the territory anyway.
It did a bit. It rankled a bit more that he had my back a bit more at the time. But as I said, he had a job to do as well, I suppose. He was writing a column for a newspaper. He was on the Sunday game. He had a job to do. I mean, more than I'm doing at the moment, and had to analyse the two lads, the joint managers, Donal and Jerry, Clare agonisingly losing the semi-final replay to Galway. I probably had to criticise a bit of stuff that they did on the day of the draw and the replay on the Sunday game, and in my column in the Examiner. So, it's not you looking at, when you see that from the other side of the fence now, yourself, when you're at this crack, you have to call it probably straight as well. But some of it I felt maybe went a bit over the top. But I think it was his way of trying to drive me mad and drive a few of the senior players kind of tick with him, and he was willing to take that if we were going to drive Clare to an All-Ireland,
And did you ever speak to him about it after, or did you ever bring it up, or would it be just something that'd be hanging out there?
We wouldn't have met too often, you see. He'd have been living over that time over in Fecal, and I was in West Clare. So, but we met, we hadn't spoken. There was no phone calls. There was a kind of a standoff, to be honest with you.
Okay.
And we were going to a kind of a mutual funeral that we both had to go to. It was a great kind of a Clare hurling funeral, And I was walking up the market and Ennis up towards the Undertakers, and himself and Mary were coming against me in the footpath, and there's no way of avoiding each other. And all of a sudden it was, well, Dalo, and as simple as that. Mary went in and sympathised, I think, and came back out nearly an hour later and said, "Ger, will you go in and sympathise? Are we going to be in Ennis all night?" And we were just shooting the breeze and back to normal, like as if there was nothing ever said between the two of us, So look, and it's been the same since. He went off to Galway then as manager, and I was on the Sunday game in 07 and 08 before I went to Dublin, and he didn't win anything with Galway, sure, and I tore the whole off it then, criticising him. When Cork beat him with 14 men in 08, I said, maybe Gerard's realising now, I think famously after the match, live on air in Thurles, I said, Gerard's realising now that the players had something to do with the success in the 90s. It was just payback time, let's say, you know. And even when I was with Dublin, then he said we were constipated one night below against Wexford. We grew. Dublin are just playing constipated hurling, he said. Like, it was a bit of tit for tat, but there was no real bad. If I met him, there was never a bother. Like, if I ran into him on O'Connell Street in Ennis at any stage, we'd have to go into the Diamond Bar or something for a cup of coffee and discuss it at length. Sure, and sure, he'd be still a great mentor and a great pal, and he'd have your back always. I know when it comes to it, you know, criticise all right, but he wouldn't have anyone else criticising you too much.
Yeah. I know. Well, that's good to because especially because he's achieved so much together as well. It'd be a shame if it ended kind of like, I often look at Roy Keane now with Ferguson. I know we've had many's a chat about Roy Keane, but I often look at the way it's ended with them, and it just doesn't sit right. Now I think the two of them are at fault. The tit for tat stuff in the books, and it's just a shame because they were so successful together and what they achieved. I just think it just doesn't sit right with me now. Like,
yeah, just admitted that in the Rise at fault. No, there'd be no, and we were so looking forward, and it might still happen for us, Alan. It would have been 25 years. We would have been coming out as the Jubilee team, you know, at half time in the All-Ireland final this year. It might still happen. You never know. It could be Christmas week. We'd not fair fob off it if it was Christmas week too, I tell you. The board's head to be getting a visit, I tell you. But no, yeah, look at and sure, with the help of God, we'll all be alive and well if it doesn't happen for 2 years for the 97 team. But yeah, no, there'd be no animosity at all, like, you know, with Gerard and any of us really. You know, I know he's given Fitzy a bit of stick as well when he was Clare manager. But of course, Fitzy won the All-Ireland in 13, so I can't say too much to him. And like, it's going very well for Fitzy and Wexford as well at the moment. So, you know, that's the only way to silence the critics, as you know yourself, is a bit of success and winning games.
So the Dublin thing then, Dalo, I suppose, how did that all come about? And was it something that, obviously, you look back on it now and you had great success in Dublin. I know we're going to get to the famous semi-final and the sending off, and that was probably the 1 year after winning Leinster in so many, I think it was 52 years or something, that hadn't won a Leinster title, and then you get to the semi-final and the sending off. But how did that all come about in the first place?
Well, I just took off for the couple of years after finishing with Clare. I went down to Kilmiley and Kerry coaching them, and was tipping away, giving a hand in Clarecastle, and was on the Sunday game and that kind of thing. And of course, I had the sports shop at the time, and we'd opened the pub in 1999 as well. So I had plenty to do if I was doing it, you know. Yeah, I loved it. I loved coaching in Kerry, I have to say. That was really like getting time away from the real cutthroat, even. By Jesus, it was fair cutthroat down there now, I'll tell you. I think you'd be going down for a bit of a handy one, I'll tell you. The Kerry County Hurling Championship, you've no idea how serious to be taken in around the end of it. But it was a great time, you know. I wound up spending 4 years giving a hand. I actually was with Dublin and I was giving a hand to Kilmiley at the same time. But yeah, just out of the blue, I suppose, Tommy Naughton had resigned as manager, and they'd had a bit of underage success with the colleges, and the minors had won a Leinster, and I suppose there was maybe a bit of contact made somewhere between somebody. Do you know that kind of way? Somebody would said, what about your man? Like, sure, he managed Clare and he hasn't done anything since, and he's still fairly young and he might be interested. You know, I know he's a good bit away. And so it was a phone call from John Costello to know what I have any interest in meeting them. And I think we met around Nina or Killaloo or somewhere like that. Himself and Jerry Harrington and Mike Connolly, Jerry was the chairman, and Mike had done a lot of the underage structures for them, and John, and yeah, they set out their dreams and what they hoped for with Dublin hurling. And I went away home to think about it and had a bit of a chat with Eilish, I suppose, and said, look, here goes, we'll have a go. And I suppose had a lot of things to get in order. I had to get the pub leased anyway, so, you know, because you couldn't run a pub and be doing that. Like, but yeah, we were lucky with that. Got a good client to take on the pub, and took off. For the first few weeks, I thought I'd probably be killed on the road here with tiredness driving home at 1 and 2 in the morning. But geez, after a while, you get to understand how long distance lorry drivers do it. You know,
yeah.
You become like a zombie, but a wide awake zombie. You know, you have your coffee stops but I loved it, I have to say, you know, it was, and they were a great board to work with, you know. Obviously they have resources, I suppose, that other boards don't have, and you'd admit that you never really wanted you hadn't to go begging for slitters, or, you know, the problem was pitches, would you believe, you know, they didn't have too many pitches. Parnell was nearly always set up for football with the grass not cut, and I used to always be fighting over that, you know. So we used to be begging and scrouching to get into places for good surfaces, would you believe? And we would have done a lot of our training out in the new club that the late great Brian Linehan helped to set up out in Castleknock, you know, because they had the best probably pitch. Now, I'm not, Jesus, Aaron's Isle were great to us, and Round Towers and Clondalk, and Jesus, if I start naming them now, I'll be shocked for that name, you know. But you know, Vincent's always give us their place the day of league games across the road in Parnell, but we were, Port Marnock was another place. You know, I leave out a few now and I'll get texts and stuff, but you know, we used to be scrounging and scraping to get paid. That was my beat, and I did when I wrote the book, I had a fair go on that. And I think when Ger Cunningham took over from me, that was one of the things he established, that he wanted a kind of a centre of excellence in DCU like the footballers had, and he got that, and I think that has been a huge asset to them since, that they've had a good home, you know, with their gym there, with their facilities to eat there, and a really good astro surface and a really good hurling pitch as well. So yeah, that was one of the main bakes I used to have, all right, that hurling was a second-class citizen with the facilities, you know. And people down the country used to be laughing at me. You know, I'd come home to Clare maybe after a league game, and I'd say, Jesus, Tuesday night now, we've nowhere to train, I have to make a few calls. And I was lucky with Richie, was in Kilmacud Crokes, and Hedjo was with the Crave Kieran, and they had massive contacts up there, because, you know, Richie being a tip man, but he was in Dublin for years, and Hedjo was one of the Dubs' proudest sons, and they could always make a call and get us in somewhere, you know. So I was blessed to have those lads. Like, if I was coming in just trying to pick up people that I had no knowledge of, I'd have been goosed, really, you know. So, but people down the country couldn't believe that.
Couldn't understand that, yeah. Come here, Dalo, this thing cuts off after an hour. You only get an hour out of it, right? So
that's great.
I'm going to end it and log back in straight away, because I want to carry on to Dublin, and I want to talk to you about the punditry stuff. And then I let you go and do whatever you want.
Okay.
Talk to you in a minute.
Okay.